My name is Arnav Gupta, and I go to Cupertino High School. I'm a rising junior, and the project that I chose is a gesture-controlled car. For my milestone 3, I got the DC motor controller to operate 2 DC motors with a separate power source connected to it. As you can see over here, this is the Arduino Uno, this is the DC motor controller, and these are my 2 DC motors. This black box is also a 6-volt battery pack, and this is my secondary power source. The reason why I needed a secondary power source was because powering this DC motor controller, 5 volts that are provided from the Arduino would not be enough. So I needed to connect a separate DC motor control, a separate battery pack to power the DC motor controller. I hooked 2 wires around the DC motors and screwed it in to the DC motor controller right here for out 1 and out 2. And the way that the DC motor controller interacts with the Arduino is with these 6 pins. The left and right most pins control the speed of these 2 DC motors, and the middle directly connect the DC motor and the Arduino. The way that the DC motor controller controls the speed of these 2 DC motors is using pulse width modulation. What this means is that the DC motor controller can provide a certain amount of voltage to these 2 motors, thus controlling the speed. And it does this by calculating the amount of time in between pulses of voltage that it sends to these 2 motors. So I'll give you a quick demonstration of a simple code that I created that turns the motors twice. As you see, it turned this motor and then it turned this motor over here. So some problems that I faced as I went on with creating this is the DC motor was actually quite complicated to figure out and hook up to the 2 DC motor to the DC motor controller. That was I figured it out with the help of my tutors and peers, and I realized that I needed to hook the wires around it. And I experimented with alligator clips, but I realized that got very messy really quick. And if I wanted to attach this onto a robot, I would encounter problems with wires falling all over the place. So I opted to do 2 wires and curl the ends around the strips. I also had problems with voltage. So voltage was a very big problem with this because the Arduino voltage wasn't enough to actually power that. And I ran tests and I checked the different voltage outputs and I checked if the motors were getting voltage with my multimeter. So I decided to connect a separate battery bank, and this eventually started to work. So my next step for the project is assembling all of my different milestones onto the actual project, onto the robot, and then uploading code to the robot to get it to respond to the gestures. So I'm at the last stretch. I just have to put everything together. Thank you.